1995 called and wants its code back, Logan said, grinning like he just invented sarcasm. I just walked him through the Firewall script I'd written, 12 years ago, yes, but still humming like a fridge at a Midwest diner. A script that, for all its unsexy glory, kept our entire pricing system from falling on its face every damn night at 2 a.m. But Logan thought he was the second coming of Steve Jobs because he once migrated his grandma's printer driver. He stood there in the Monday sync meeting, freshly imported from some startup where kombucha replaced coffee, holding court like he was auditioning for a reboot of The Office. Digital duct tape, he said, tapping my script on the screen like it owed him rent. Who's been maintaining this museum exhibit? Me. That would be me, Logan. The woman who'd kept this dumpster fire of a backend from self-immolating every time the vendor's spaghetti code API had a mood swing. But I didn't say that. I smiled. I nodded. I let him talk. Because sometimes silence is strategy and sometimes silence is gasoline. And just a quick thing while you're here. If you're one of the 97% listening without subscribing, hey, no judgment, but it really does help the crew when you hit that button. Keeps the stories rolling, keeps us fed, and yeah, it low-key pisses off people like Logan. Anyway, back to the car crash. Right there in the room in front of the whole dev team, he pulled up the repo, hovered over the script, and said, let's clean this up. One click, deleted, just like that. A script that had survived 4 CTOs, 3 budget freezes, a ransomware scare, and 1 literal basement flood, gone. Don't worry, he said, winking at Chase, intern who once asked me if Linux was a video game console. We're future-proofing. The worst part, nobody stopped him. I caught one of the junior devs glancing at me like maybe he knew what had just died. But he said nothing. They never do, not when the new guy has corporate cologne and a LinkedIn halo. That night, I sat in my car with the engine off and the dome light flickering like an omen. My badge still clipped to my coat. My coffee still full. I watched Logan's reflection in the glass, smug and careless, projected on the other side of the building's front doors. He didn't know it yet, but he'd just dropped a lit match into a room full of gas. That script wasn't just code. It was a barrier, a band-aid. A firewall built from desperation and duct tape and long nights patching holes our vendor never admitted existed. And without it, oh, sweet child, without it the system was naked. Prices would slip. Staging would overwrite production. Wholesale would parade through the live site like streakers at a Super Bowl. But Logan didn't read the script. He mocked it, then he nuked it. And in doing so, he didn't just delete code. He deleted the one thing keeping his whole career from becoming a flaming obituary. 2 days later, HR summoned me to a beige room that smelled like stale ambition and cucumber hand lotion. Jenna from HR sat across the table, smiling like she was doing me a favor. This isn't personal, she began, which is how you know it's exactly that. Logan's feedback, she said, flipping through papers she wouldn't let me touch, is that your approach isn't forward-thinking. Forward-thinking. That was rich, coming from a guy who just let a twitchy intern run loose in a codebase older than Chase's driver's license. I didn't argue. I didn't flinch. I just watched the fluorescent light above us buzz like it wanted to die too. They handed me a manila envelope. Severance, release form, NDA. You know, the usual corporate don't sue us care package. 1 month's pay and a week apology, wrapped in the kind of HR jargon that makes you feel like you died and were replaced with a PowerPoint slide. I asked, is Logan available to speak? Jenna blinked like I'd asked to see a unicorn. He's in meetings. We do want to thank you for your contributions. Contributions, right? Like I donated canned goods, not spent a decade duct taping their entire infrastructure together with code and caffeine. I signed, because I'd already started packing the second Logan clicked delete. Back at my desk, no one made eye contact. That's the thing about tech offices, they're all we're family until someone gets walked out, then suddenly everyone forgets how eye sockets work. I didn't get a card, didn't want one. My cube had 3 things: a stress ball shaped like a heart I never used, a cracked mug from a 2013 hackathon, and a USB drive buried in the lining of my planner. Not for company files, no, those were off limits. But my own notes, my logs, my personal documentation of the API anomaly no one else could ever seem to catch, that was mine. I plugged it into my laptop one last time. Folder name, patch notes, final v3. Inside, logs dating back 9 years, annotated error patterns, version control IDs, and most importantly, a full printout of the cron job schedule tied to the now dead script, including a note, if deleted, expect overwrite within 72 hours. Don't be an idiot, too late. I backed it up to my encrypted cloud, then to a local drive. Then I deleted the local copy. Logan didn't know those files existed off-server. He disabled my Git access, but not my memory, and I remembered everything. I took one last look at my empty screen and walked out without saying goodbye. Let them think they'd won. Let them have their clean desks and their new age manager with his Slack emojis and confidence borrowed from podcasts. I'd written my last line of code for them. Now it was just a waiting game. Chase strutted into my old role like a toddler in his dad's steel-toe boots. Big grin, zero grip. I watched it all unfold from a safe distance, sipping burnt diner coffee and reading the team Slack like it was a slow-motion car wreck. They handed him keys to the kingdom, root access, deployment permissions, the whole shiny arsenal. Kid barely knew how to spell cron job, but Logan hyped him up like he was Moses descending from AWS. 2 days in, Chase posted in the dev channel, clearing out some clutter, deleting a bunch of legacy scripts today. Wish me luck, grinning face with sweat, and there it was. The trigger, clutter, he called it clutter. I knew exactly what he meant, that little cluster of SH files tucked deep in the utilities folder, all marked deprecated by some past manager who thought renaming a file was the same as replacing it, including mine. The firewall patch wasn't flashy. Hell, didn't even have a UI. It was a bandage coated in frustration and coffee at 3 a.m. after I discovered the API bug that let staging data hijack production endpoints. One misplaced push and the whole site could get flooded with internal-only prices, wholesale rates meant for our vendor sandbox, not the public eye. The vendor never fixed it, never even acknowledged it, said it was environmental, so I fixed it myself. Built a watchdog script that sniffed for staging markers in the update payloads. Any match, it blocked the transfer, logged it, and fired an alert straight to my inbox. It had saved our asses hundreds of times, and now? Now it was being erased by a guy who once asked if grep was a Pokemon. By Friday morning, the commit was live. Removed deprecated firewall scripts, cleanup hashtag task, no review. No rollback plan, just pure, uncut confidence. I stared at the commit hash for a good 10 minutes, one eyebrow raised like I was watching someone juggle chainsaws and yell, "Check this out." Then I opened my logs. According to the system, the next scheduled deployment, where staging synced with production for pre-launch testing, was set for Saturday morning, 3 o'clock a.m. Without the firewall script in place, there'd be no gatekeeper. Nothing stopping those staging prices, raw, unformatted, dirt cheap, from marching straight into the live database. The prices weren't even real. They were placeholders for internal cost modeling, often up to 60% lower than retail, marked in bold with labels like not final and dummy value. Chase thought he was cleaning house. He was lighting a fuse, and I knew exactly when it would hit. So I made popcorn, downloaded the site's public product catalog, checked a few alerts, took screenshots of the last cron job still referencing my old patch, now disabled. And then I waited. Because the beautiful thing about bad code decisions is that they don't need help failing. They just need time. 3:07 a.m., Saturday, I was awake, of course. Not because I'm some vengeful coding gremlin, okay? Maybe just a little, but because I knew the precise moment the domino would fall. Right on schedule, the deployment script ran. No human oversight, no sanity checks, just a cold, unfeeling transfer of data from staging to production. And this time, no firewall standing in its way. The glitch didn't roar. It didn't crash. It whispered. Subtle, surgical, just a flick of wrong numbers in the right place. The kind of change that looked almost intentional if you didn't know any better. Suddenly, $699 gaming chairs were listed for $412. Monitors, normally $1,299, now $748. And that industrial-grade espresso machine we used to overcharge corporate clients for, down to $392. Wholesale pricing, meant only for internal forecasting and vendor negotiation, was now live, and I mean live. By 3:23 a.m., the site's backend was struggling under the weight of hundreds of orders. Resellers, bots, professional bargain hunters who had alerts for anomalies like this. I sat cross-legged in bed, watching it in real time. Tools like Keepa and Camel were lighting up like slot machines. I logged into a browser tab I'd kept open with the product feed. The XML output was glorious, dirty, naked, a sandbox's skeleton exposed. By 4 o'clock a.m., I had over 24 screenshots of Reddit threads titled things like, "Did redacted. Com just drop their pants, wholesale prices live? Grab what you can before they fix it. Price mistake or CEO gone rogue?" Twitter followed. A TikTok reseller account posted a video saying, "Yo, go buy now. Company is glitched. Thank me later." 10,000 views in under an hour. And still no alerts, because I'd built those too. They'd trigger if even one staging marker crossed into prod. A rogue SKU, a dummy tag, a price under a flagged threshold. And the moment Chase wiped the script folder, those alerts vanished too. At 5:17 a.m., the shipping API logged over 1,800 labels queued. Warehouse was waking up early on a Saturday wondering why the hell every packing slip said gold tier partner with no matching client IDs. By sunrise, the team Slack channel was a graveyard of missed pings and panicked direct messages. Someone finally noticed. I imagine it went something like, "Wait, why is SKU hash GG101 showing at $312? Wasn't that supposed to be $849? Why are we seeing 400 orders for it in 3 hours? Guys, are we live with staging prices?" Yes, sweet summer children. Yes, you are. And all across America, small business owners were pouring their third cup of coffee while gleefully ordering deeply discounted electronics like it was Cyber Monday after a blackout. I didn't say a word, didn't post, didn't text, didn't gloat, I just watched. Vindication didn't need a trumpet. It was better served quiet, like watching the ship that tossed you overboard slowly take on water. By 8:11 a.m., customer support had activated their oh-shit protocol, ACA forwarding every ticket to the team lead and praying someone above their pay grade knew what the hell was happening. The inbox was melting. Subject lines stacked up like a horror show. Order confirmed at wrong price. Still honored, right? Need 200 more units at your wholesale rate. Thanks for the glitch, sucker's smiling face with sunglasses. One poor rep, Kimberly, bless her caffeinated heart, was copy-pasting canned responses about unexpected pricing errors under review. Even tried calling Logan. Voicemail. Over in sales, it got worse. They were halfway through a regional meeting when someone refreshed the revenue dashboard and dropped their quasa. Massive spike. Wrong products, wrong clients. All hitting high-margin items with massive discounts that should not exist. What the hell is SKU GG101 doing at $312? Someone barked. A junior analyst started pulling sales logs. The numbers didn't lie. They begged for explanation. Tens of thousands of dollars in lost margin per hour. Bot clusters had cleaned out entire categories. B2B resellers that hadn't touched the platform in years were now maxing out bulk orders. And Logan was in a cafe across town, sipping a $9 matcha and posting on LinkedIn about disruption through fearless leadership. He walked into the office at 9:46 a.m. to chaos. Support had two reps crying. Sales was mid-conference call with the CFO. Inventory was locked in a spreadsheet death spiral trying to cross-reference what should have shipped and what did. Logan's smile didn't even survive the elevator. First thing he did was corner the e-com director, Michelle. Why weren't these price changes approved? Didn't you guys test the catalog updates? Michelle stared at him like he'd grown antlers. You're asking me? This wasn't our push. The only update we made was the seasonal banner for the back-to-school promo. Your team owns pricing integrity. Boom, ping-pong match activated. Logan snapped at Dev. Dev shrugged, asked Chase. He cleaned the scripts. Chase, now zero point 0.5 shades paler than printer paper, said, I was told those were deprecated. I was cleaning up. I didn't know. Of course you didn't, kid. Logan turned back to Michelle. Okay, then maybe your team changed the feed? Michelle blinked. I haven't had staging access since you revoked it, remember? Ask your intern. And around they went. Meanwhile, someone from finance was now demanding a freeze on all order fulfillment until they could calculate just how much blood was bleeding from the margins. Refunds? Maybe. Lawsuits? Possibly. And me? I was on my second cinnamon roll, watching it all through Slack screenshots forwarded by a dev friend who never deleted my number. Logan's losing it. She texted, keep saying it's an inventory API failure. Michelle's about to throat punch him. I didn't reply. Just tapped my screen, zooming in on a photo of the meeting room. Logan, red-faced, Chase, wilting. A whiteboard behind them scribbled with arrows, acronyms, and ironically, Firewall. In all caps, no one could trace it, no one could prove it, yet, but the spiral had started, and it was only going to spin faster. By 10:12 a.m., the revenue discrepancy had ballooned past oops into full-blown shareholder nightmare. Some poor analyst on the finance team had stitched together a real-time margin burn report, bright red numbers against a black dashboard, flickering like the warning lights in a sinking submarine. $4.2 million evaporated in 8 hours. The board noticed. The CEO, mid-lecture at a leadership retreat in Scottsdale, was pulled offstage with a whisper from his assistant and a phone call that started with "How bad is it?" and ended with him flying back before the buffet closed. He was still wearing his networking lanyard when he walked into the emergency Zoom call. Logan started talking fast. Terms like unexpected pricing injection, temporary data sync issue, and restoration of pricing integrity were tossed like confetti at a funeral. The logistics director broke in. Teeth clenched, we've already fulfilled 400 plus units. Orders are packed. Carriers are scanning labels. We can't undo that without refunding and recalling. Michelle, the e-com director, raised a brow. Maybe next time don't delete scripts you don't understand. Someone muted their mic, probably to scream. The CEO asked the question hanging over everyone's heads. How did this happen? What changed? Eyes pivoted to Logan. He blamed the staging sync. Michelle countered with access logs. Then Chase, bless his panicked little heart, admitted it. I deleted some scripts. I didn't know one of them was still critical. It was labeled deprecated. You could hear a pin drop. The CEO leaned in. What script? Chase, it was a firewall, I think. Something about price validation. I assumed it was redundant. CEO, and who wrote it? Silence. Then Michelle, without blinking, the woman you laid off 2 days before the breach. I smiled. Slow and sharp, as I read the Slack transcript forwarded to me by my dev mole. Meanwhile, legal was already drafting statements. We'll need to word this as a brief technical anomaly, one of the in-house counsel types offered. Frame it as limited scope. Avoid language that implies data loss or systemic vulnerability. Good luck with that, sweetheart. Reddit already had threads labeled Insider exposes e-com screw-up trending. Someone screen recorded their entire cart of glitched discounts and was now getting interview requests from coupon blogs. On the client side, the blowback was just beginning. Two of our top B2B partners had emailed their reps with innocent little questions like, "Hey, loving the new pricing tiers. Just wondering, will these new rates be permanent? Can we lock in this amazing new discount if we increase our order volume?" Because of course they would. And you let the wolves taste blood, don't be shocked when they circle the campfire. But while the company scrambled, while people yanked cables, checked logs, reset passwords, and prayed, I sat in my apartment, lights dim, fingers hovering over my laptop. The email was already drafted. Subject line: What a script is for dummies. 4 attachments. Page 1, the original script, timestamped. Page 2, its internal function. Page 3, the Slack thread where Logan mocked it and ordered deletion. Page 4, my final note, bold and centered. Removal equals catastrophic. I hadn't sent it yet, not because I wasn't ready, but because I wanted them to need it, desperately. And we weren't quite there yet, close, but not yet. By noon, IT had finally crawled deep enough into the server logs to find the smoking gun. The moment the deployment pipeline was triggered, the staging database overwrote the live one. That part was clear. But what baffled them, what made grown men squint at terminals and rub their temples, was why nothing stopped it. No validation, no checksum block, no error flag. That's when someone found the commit log. Timestamp 2 days before the breach. User, L. Shaw admin message, removed deprecated firewall scripts cleanup. They stared at it in silence. Wait, one of the sysadmins muttered. This was the firewall script? Another dev checked the backup server. Yeah, and there's no matching replacement. Nothing's been added since, just deleted. Logan's name was on the commit. His little cleanup note right there, preserved like a fossil under digital dirt. When they called him into the war room, he was already sweating. You said those scripts were dead, someone said. They were. Logan snapped. They weren't even documented. Except they were, came the reply, just not in the repo. Because I didn't put it there. I didn't trust them, never had. My documentation, my real notes, lived offline, encrypted and annotated in ways Logan couldn't even begin to fake. He tried yelling at Chase. What the hell, man? Why didn't you check dependencies before wiping anything? Chase, now fully in meltdown mode, blurted out. You told me to clean up anything not tagged or used in the last quarter. I didn't mean mission-critical code. You said it was clutter. The shouting echoed down the hallway. My friend in IT messaged me, they're breaking down, you'd love it. System rollback failed, too old. No backup of the old firewall script, they can't even reconstruct it. Of course they couldn't. I'd written that thing like a personal diary. Half logic, half instinct, with functions nested inside aliases and conditionals based on error patterns I'd learned over years. You don't rebuild that in an afternoon. You can't. And Logan. He was cornered. No spin, no hotfix, no intern to throw under the bus without implicating himself. His digital fingerprints were all over the deletion. The board had the log. Legal had the timestamp. And Chase? Poor kid looked like he was ready to crawl into a recycle bin and right-click himself into oblivion. Somewhere in the building, someone typed the words root cause, unauthorized script removal into a postmortem document. Meanwhile, I opened the draft email again, watched the cursor blink, watched the world burn, and smiled, because now they needed me, not as a contractor, not as a consultant, as the only person alive who knew how to stop the bleeding, and I wasn't going to lift a single damn finger until they begged. Subject line, urgent, can we talk? Timestamp, 2:32 p.m. Sender, CEO at companycorp.com. First line of the email, hope you're doing well. We'd greatly appreciate your insight on a technical matter affecting our live environment. Please let us know if you're available for a quick consult. Second email, we believe the issue may be related to legacy code you previously maintained. Any help would be invaluable. Third email, an hour later, I understand this may be inconvenient, but this situation is extremely time sensitive. Please advise on next steps. Fourth, at 5:18 p.m., no greeting. No fluff, we are in a difficult position and would very much like to resolve this. Please respond. The fifth one just said, please, and still I didn't answer. I let them stew. Let Logan flail. Let finance and legal bicker about liability while my inbox sat unread with those little red dots piling up like unanswered prayers. Around 8:40 p.m., I finally stood up, stretched, and poured myself a neat 2 fingers of bourbon I'd been saving since the layoff. Not for celebration, for this, I sat back down. Clicked reply. One line attached, PDF explains everything. That's it. No salutation, no signature. Just the digital equivalent of handing them the knife and watching them realize they'd already stabbed themselves. I attached 4 pages, all clean, all precise. Page 1, the firewall script, annotated, commented, functional. Page 2, a diagram of the staging API misfire with arrows pointing at every flaw Chase had unwittingly let in. Page 3, the commit log showing Logan's deletion. Page 4, the Slack screenshot. The message where Logan called my work prehistoric, followed by a clown emoji and Chase's LOL reaction. Timestamped, preserved, irrefutable. I didn't include rates, didn't offer support, didn't say I'd help. Just a PDF, like a ghost dropping receipts. My dev friend texted 30 minutes later. CEO opened the doc on Zoom with half the board watching. Logan tried to say it was taken out of context. Then the PDF hit page 4. You could hear the resignation letters drafting themselves. Dry amusement bubbled up in my chest. I closed my laptop, topped off my drink, and waited for part 9 to write itself. The CEO opened the PDF live on Zoom. You could hear the rustling of suits, the soft ping of someone muting too late, the collective inhale of a group about to see the exact moment the iceberg hit the hull. The title, bold at the top of page 1. What a script is for dummies, even legal had to smirk at that one. First page, the script itself. Clean, functional. 10 years of hard-won knowledge packed into 200 lines of shell command poetry, complete with timestamps and comments like "do not remove this unless you want a job at Radio Shack." Second page, my annotated breakdown. Every line explained. Why it was written, what it protected, how it intercepted staging calls, where it logged failures. I'd written it slowly, deliberately, the kind of explanation you save for the moment they stop pretending they understand and finally shut up to listen. Third page, the commit log. User, L. Shaw admin date. Exact timestamp message. Removed deprecated firewall scripts cleanup. There it was, in his own words. The bullet fired into the spine of their pricing integrity. Fourth page, the Slack message. Logan at channel, what is this 1995? This ancient script still live, lol, followed by a clown emoji. Chase's reply, should I delete it? Logan, torch it. We're not a museum. Silence. No coughs, no excuses. Just digital stillness, frozen like a screenshot that might outlive all of them. Logan blinked fast, leaned forward like he could somehow explain his way out through the webcam. That was taken out of context. That conversation was casual. I wasn't aware of the dependencies. The CEO didn't blink, didn't interrupt. Just turned slightly, looked off screen at someone in the room with him and said, "You're dismissed, not fired, not let go. Dismissed like a child, like a mistake." Logan opened his mouth, then shut it again. Someone on the Zoom call forgot to mute their mic, just the faint sound of someone exhaling hard, maybe even laughing quietly. The CEO continued like nothing had happened. Finance, begin estimates for losses. Legal, prep vendor disclosures. Let's talk compensation packages for key staff we cut. We'll need to rebuild trust. And then, in the quietest voice I'd ever heard him use, he added, let's also discuss reestablishing contact with our former engineer. Carefully, I closed the laptop. That was the moment. The exact second my humiliation, my erasure, flipped into legacy. Not because I got the last word, but because I was the last word. They deleted a script. But what they really deleted was their only safety net. And I let them. Big thanks for watching, you sneaky seniors. Subscribe to keep the coffee pot brewing revenge. Your ex-colleagues won't know what hit 'em.